with me, I'd love to get you on the list. And today, first-time community presenter, Josh Richards. Welcome, Josh.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Peace be with you. All right, I knew we had some lapsed Methodists and Catholics here. There's normally a little lectern here.
Not today.
No, it'll be good. It'll be fine. Sorry. Okay, some guy started with a joke a while back, so I guess I'll try that too. Jesus walks into a Motel 6, sets 3 nails down on the front desk, and says, "Hey, can you put me up for the night?" That didn't go well. I'm not going to do my 9/11 jokes. I'm kidding. No, my name's Josh. It's kind of interesting to be here. Like a few of y'all used to be pretty religious. I was a minister for 5 years of my life, a Christian intern / missionary for about 2 more. And so yeah, that means that now I'm like a level 3 atheist just by virtue of that. After I left, after I was ceremoniously fired, I went on to get a graduate degree in philosophy because I already started on that. I wanted to write good sermons, which is pretty useless, but it's still a whole lot of fun. And so I say all that because I don't have a philosophical idea or anything like that. This is just something kind of ridiculous I was thinking about with talking with some of the friends I've made from here, and I wanted to kind of share that. So my thought for the day, and feel free to just let this go in one ear, get some speed, and go right out the other, is that I think Jesus would have made a pretty spectacular atheist. I really do. I say that because Christianity is something that it's been about 4 years since I've left. There's still so much of that stays with me, like the person of Jesus, some of the lessons that I learned, a lot of the demonizing other people, a lot of the whole don't have fun stuff has faded away, but there's still these cultural echoes that stay kind of within me. I should first off say, for those of you that love the historical Jesus and stuff like that, yeah, I know there's a whole lot we can't know about the guy. To me, Jesus has brown hair and, he's kind of white and he's glowing, he's pretty effeminate, but that's just my Jesus. You might have a different Jesus. Whatever. Anyway, the things that stick out with me so much, so when I think about Jesus, even still, and it's amazing, is the whole radical love, radical acceptance, minding your own business, worrying about your own affairs, and all of that still... It still sticks with me. It's kind of weird. I remember one of the things that I loved best when I was a child, and this made me just so much more insufferable as a Christian, was the parts of the Bible where Jesus would stand up to the Sadducees, the Pharisees. Those were like the people who were in charge back then. He would speak truth to them and he'd piss them off, and that's really probably why he ended up getting nailed to a cross. That did not help him very much in terms of survival. But I love that. I love that passion. I love that, what matters is doing what's right. And what matters is loving people. What matters is, whatever else my youth pastor really drilled into me, into my mind when I was a youngster. But a lot of that still stays with me. And so I was thinking, the other day, I was like, Jesus would have made a spectacular atheist. He got rid of a whole lot of things, a whole lot of ideas that were present in his time and his day. He challenged them. I think it's in John 8, the disciples, at that point, even then, first century, people are like, hey, look, there's a guy who's born blind. Jesus, what did he do? What did his parents do that God got so pissed off he made them blind? And he's like, I don't think that has anything to do with that guy. That's something else. Little parts like that just, they stick with me. So the point of all this, why Jesus is an atheist? Why get up and say all that? The point I say all that is because as an atheist, so much of this does stick with me. I was so surprised to learn that, a lot of the things that I really liked about the New Testament were pretty much plagiarized. Concepts of hell, even Jesus' sermons. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this short. I promise that I keep this under 10 minutes. I just want to talk a little bit about the Bible before I wrap this all up. I want to talk about what was one of my favorite parts of the Bible, and it still is. I'm sure you all guys have heard of the prodigal son. It's in Luke 15. It's a little trio of stories. Jesus talks about the first one. There's a shepherd. He has 99 sheep, or he has 100 and one leaves. And so he leaves the 99 to chase the one. He brings it back. And the story is God loves people. And then he tells the exact same story. There's a woman who has 10 coins. They're very valuable. She loses one, turns her house upside down, and she's so happy when she finds it. And then there's the prodigal son. Man has 2 sons. One of them says to him, "Hey, Pops, wish you were dead so I could have your cash. So I'm going to take that now, go off, spend it on hookers and the internet or whatever." That really is kind of the idea, whatever the equivalent of that was back then. And then this poor guy, like, he ends up, he's this Jew working in like a pig field, feeding him slop, and the story says he's hungry for the slop the pigs are eating. He says, "This really sucks, I'm going to go back to my dad, ask for forgiveness, and maybe he'll let me work for him." And the story goes, I'm sure as you all know, he walks to his father's house, the father sees him from afar, and he goes and he hugs him, and he puts a ring on his finger, and he says, "I forgive you, I let it go, you can come back, you can be my son." And there's a whole lot of other theological dialogue after that. What you might not know, and what I want to share, is that that story was stolen. That story, that's not an original Jesus story. He didn't just, fart that out. Like, he totally stole that stuff. The original story, I think that, I might have the right word here, Mike can tell me, imprecatory. It was an imprecatory story. The son, the 2 stories that I'm most familiar with are from Shammai and Hillel, the 2 rabbis that Jesus most often kind of steals from. The stories go that either the kid dies out there feeding these pigs, there's a drought, and then there's a famine, and so the pigs die, he dies. And then the other story's even better. He comes back to ask for forgiveness, and all of the townspeople gather stones, and they murder the kid because he told his father, "I wish you were dead," and he cursed him. And so Jesus, his crowd was familiar with this. Most of the things Jesus talks about, his crowd was very familiar with that. He knew his audience very well. And so he uses this story, and everybody's excited. They're like, "Man, that little punk, he's going to get stoned in this story," and not in the good way either. Sorry, that's a different community moment. But everybody's kind of expecting this, and so he has this different ending. And one of the things that I really love about Christianity is it's a whole history of stealing ideas, getting rid of some of the bad stuff, keeping some of the good stuff. Christmas, which I love Christmas, that's one of my favorites. Christmas, whatever you want to call it. But all of the things that I really love about Christianity, my thought is this, is just keep going, keep doing that. What better honor could I do my vestigial faith than to keep up the tradition of getting rid of the things that are wrong, getting rid of the things that are toxic, and moving on. It was a lot of pain and agony when I left. I was ceremoniously fired. I was laughed out of a church office, and that really hurt, and it was hard for years. It really was. I don't know if y'all have ever worked at a church. If so, don't. It was great, but it was also really hard, and one of the things that I really missed was a lot of having all that stuff together in the community. That's why I love places like this, and I was really surprised to learn that atheists aren't all baby-eating evil people. I ended up becoming one. So this is to wrap it up, is that, yeah, I think in my own ridiculous mind, Jesus would have made a fantastic atheist. And we can keep neutering the faith by getting rid of things that don't make sense and things that we don't need. We don't need hell. We don't really need any of that. But those stories still stay with me of loving one another, being kind. You don't need a reason to do that, but the stories are still good. That's a culture. That's amazing. You don't have to get rid of that. You see, get rid of the bullcrap. And I guess in the very end, I'll say this, is that H.G. Wells once remarked that every dogma has its day. And I think that, there's a lot of ways to kind of counteract a dogma's day, but for me, I think keeping your dogmas neutered by getting rid of hell, getting rid of the nonsense, and moving on is a good way to keep the next big one from hanging out for 2,000 years. Thanks for letting me talk.